In this video, I'm going to teach you how to debug your applications. So I've written a small program that displays the smallest numbers in a list. So as you see on the first line, we define a list of integers with numbers from 1 to 6. Then we call this method getSmallest. We pass our numbers list here, and 3 here means return 3 smallest numbers in this list. And finally, we iterate over this smallest list and display them on the console. So before we get a closer look at the code, let's run the application and see what's wrong here. So with Control and F5, so instead of getting numbers 1, 2, 3, we're getting 6, 5, 4. So this is not the list of smallest numbers. Let's see what's happening here. So we have 2 methods, getSmallest and getSmallest. Let's expand this method. So in this method, first we define a list to hold the smallest numbers. Then as long as the number of elements or the number of objects in this list is less than the count that we pass to this method, we're going to run this logic. And here we make a call to getSmallest method, passing the list, and we expect this method to return the minimum number in that list. Next, we add this minimum number to our ultimate list of smallest numbers and remove it from the original list. So this way, the first time this while loop is executed, we should get the list of 1 to 6. So I expect 1 to be returned and added to the smallest list and removed from the original list. Then we repeat with this list, 2 to 6. And we repeat this as long as we have less elements in this list than the count that this method receives as an argument. Now let's take a look at getSmallest method. So here, first we assume the first element in the list is the smallest number. Then we start iterating over the list, starting from index 1 up to a number of elements in this list. And for the current number, if it's greater than the minimum, we change the minimum. So if you're a bit experienced, you know that here we have a bug. But if you didn't catch it, that's perfectly fine. That's the purpose of this video. I'm going to teach you how to use debugging in Visual Studio to find bugs in your program. So how does debugging work? In terms of the process, first you need to put 1 or more breakpoints in your application and then run your application in the debug mode. When you run your application in the debug mode, the execution stops at your breakpoint. And there you can inspect the values of different variables to make sure they're holding the right value. And if not, you can change your code. So I'm going to put a breakpoint at the beginning of the main method here. You can put a breakpoint by pressing F9. Or you can remove it by pressing F9 again. And now we run the application in the debug mode. How do we do that? With F5. So remember this shortcut. F5 is run in the debug mode, whereas Control F5 is run without debug. So I'm going to press F5 now. So look, the program started and execution stopped at the line where I put a breakpoint. Now at this point, I can look at the values of different variables, or I can continue execution. There are a few different ways to continue execution. One common way is what we call step over. And the shortcut for that is F10. So if I press F10 now, this line is executed. So with F10, we execute 1 line at a time. Now I'm going to press F10 one more time and hover my mouse over smallest variable. Let's inspect this. So we have 6, 5, 4. So this is telling me that there is something wrong in this method, getSmallest. So let's go back. Look at this yellow arrow here. I'm going to drag this and put it back here. I press F10 to step over one more time. But this time, I'm going to step into this method because I want to know what is happening here. And to step into, we use F11. So remember the shortcut? F10 is step over, and F11 is step into. Now we press F10 again. So first, we define a new list. That's fine. F10 again. Now at the beginning of the while loop, F10 again, and again. Now I can save my time by pressing another breakpoint here. So next time I run the application in the debug mode, I don't have to do all these F10, F10, F11. I can just jump here straight away. So F9 for another breakpoint. Now, to save my time, I don't want to jump into this method straight away because maybe this method is doing its job properly. So first, I'm going to step over it. So F10. Now let's take a look at min. So what is coming out of this method is number 6. And what was the input? A list with numbers 1 to 6. So this is telling me something is definitely wrong inside this method. So let's go back. And this time I'm going to step into it. F11. Now F10. Now I'm going to introduce you to a very useful tool when debugging your applications, the watch window. So you can open it via Debug, Windows, Watch, Watch 1. So what is this window? We can put the variables that are of interest to us in this window, and this way we can look at their values at all time. Then we don't have to hover our mouse over them one by one. It's much easier. Now, look at the code here. There are a few variables that are involved in this algorithm. One is min, another one is list of 0, and the last one is list of I. So I can put these variables in the watch window and look at their values at all time. So here in the watch window, min, list of 0, and list of I. Now note that list of I is not defined yet because I is defined in the for block. And currently we are outside the for block. So we step over this line with F10. Now look at the watch window. Note that the value of min is indicated as red. Red means the value just changed. So now min is 1. Let's continue execution by F10. F10, F10, F10. Now look at the value of list of I in the watch window. So the current value in the list is 2. And we're comparing this with min. We are saying if list of I is greater than min, set min to list of I. So with this logic, we're constantly looking for a larger number. And this will return the maximum number in the list, not the minimum. So this is where the problem resides. Now I can easily fix this by changing this condition to less than. Now let's step over it, F10. So did you notice that this line was not executed? So the value of min was not changed. And as you see in the watch window, it's still 1. So it appears the problem is solved. Now I can continue stepping over different lines here, but I think we'll kind of get lost in the detail. Let's step out of this method and quickly look at the end result. How do we step out? With Shift and F11. So let's repeat the shortcuts. F10 to step over a line, F11 to step into it, and Shift and F11 to step out of a method. So now I press Shift and F11. Look, we are back in getSmallest method. Now I can step over this line and look at the value of min. So F10. I think the problem is solved. Look at the list. So our list is numbers 1 to 6, and min is 1. So let's stop the debugger and run the application in the normal mode without debugging and see if we get the right result on the console. How do we stop debugger? With Shift and F5. Again, to review, F5 to run the application in debug mode and Shift and F5 to stop the debug mode. And now I'm going to run the application without debugging with Control and F5. Awesome, we fixed the bug. But wait a second here, we're not done yet. This program has a few more bugs that you haven't seen yet. And that's what we're going to cover over the next few lectures. So we're going to review these debugging techniques, and along the way, I will also show you other tools to fix the remaining bugs in this program.